Welcome to the Hidden Money Podcast. Today, we have one of our favorite clients here, Gib Irons. Gib is the managing partner of Irons and Irons, which is located in Greenville, North Carolina. He specializes in divorce law and personal injury litigation. But on top of that, Gib has a very interesting story. He's almost a jack of all trades, has his hand in many pots, real estate, alternative investments. Outside of not only practicing, he is actively involved in these areas. And so I don't know when he finds time to sleep. So please welcome to the show, Gib Irons. Welcome, Gib.
Thanks, Kevin. Good to be with you. I appreciate you having me on today.
So if you could just give our listeners a little backstory. You're a very interesting person and you're very knowledgeable in a lot of areas. How did you get to where you are?
Kevin, I'm an attorney, a trial lawyer from Eastern North Carolina, and I've been practicing law for 17 years now. And during my career, I've tried a lot of family law cases all the way down from a basic custody type case or a property distribution case all the way up to high net worth divorce cases. So I've lived a good portion of my time in the courtroom over the past 17 years. And I have 4 attorneys in my law office, and I have several paralegals and support staff members. Got into real estate investing just more recently in life. I think it was in 2019 when I started into real estate investing, and that has just opened a bunch of doors for me and given me a lot of opportunities to not only increase my net worth, but also to save a tremendous amount of money in taxes, which quite frankly is the biggest expense that I've had as a practicing attorney. Being a W-2 employee, I've always paid a tremendous amount of taxes and had a high ordinary income burden to deal with.
We're not going to hold it against you that you've been a practicing attorney for the last 17 years. As we become friends over the last couple, I've really been refreshed and found it incredibly refreshing to see that not all lawyers are bad people. And I do consider you a good, trusted friend now, Gib. You mentioned that tax was your biggest expense, or it probably was your biggest line item expense for over a dozen years. And what got you to start investing in real estate in the first place? It wasn't the tax advantages, was it? What got you in there?
I originally started out investing in real estate just as a way to build wealth and to create a legacy, for my wife and my children, and to create generational wealth. I saw real estate as one of the fastest ways to build wealth. And I actually, when I started investing in real estate, it was 2019. I believe it was August of 2019. And I went on to buy 14 single family condos over the next 14 months.
Wow.
And majority of those 14 condos had to be renovated. So quite a few of them, we tore them down to the studs. We did a massive interior renovation that included granite countertops, tile backsplash, stainless steel appliances. We really made these apartments as nice as we could possibly make them, the type of place that you or I could stay and be comfortable. And so we took these properties that were built in the 1980s that had received no attention in many years and gutted them. And we were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on the upfitting of these apartments and then renting them out for a much higher monthly rent. And honestly, I had talked to a prior CPA and they had told me that there was basically no tax advantage to those investments. And I'm a member of 3 different mastermind groups, but I met you and Kevin at a mastermind group, and you explained the qualified real estate professional designation. You did very eloquently. It was very simple, easy to understand. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about short-term rentals later, but you also explained material participation under the tax law. And at that point, I knew, I think, Mike, I approached you right after you got off stage. And I said, look, I got to get to know you. So I think within a couple of days of that initial meeting, we had a follow-up meeting. I sent you maybe past 3 years of tax returns, and you and I jumped on a call and you said, Gib, have you thought about the qualified real estate professional designation? What does your wife do for a living? Is she available to tend to these properties? And she was. It was something that I was doing begrudgingly. I was managing all of our properties and trying to manage the law office and the 3 different locations that we have. And just juggling a bunch of balls in the air. These construction projects, at times we had 4 different contractors in 4 different properties doing 4 different remodels.
Wow.
And it was like a revolving door at my law office with them coming in and out all day long, picking up checks and materials. And once my wife and I had that conversation, it was a no-brainer. She became a property manager of the 14 properties. And it was honestly like a light bulb went off and I heard you speak, and it was a complete game changer, to be honest. It was one of the most pivotal demarcation points in our wealth building career.
That is awesome. That is really awesome. And I'm super glad that you came and grabbed me after that. I just want to point out that conference we met at had very little to do with real estate professional designation or long-term rentals. It was something focused on a different area. But it just shows how every potential taxpayer out there, not every, but almost everyone, has a complete different fact set. And even though you and I both went to this conference to talk about a whole nother area in the tax world, because you'd already made these great investments, you weren't using the tax tail to wag the business dog, you made these investments to grow your net worth and grow your financial freedom. You made them because up until then, you were stuck trading your time for money. And that's not an easy road to try to build financial freedom and have time to spend with your family. But you made these great decisions, and it just so happened that there was some hidden money in the tax code that you weren't aware of at the time. And once you found those, you didn't have to change your investment philosophy. You'd already made the investments. All you had to do is take advantage of the tax law that was already there for your benefit. It was just sitting there. It was hidden money just sitting there waiting for you to pick this fruit off of the tree. And within 6 months, I think, of that time, your wife was a legitimate real estate professional. And I don't know, how big of a difference would you say that tax return, that first one that we filed with your wife as a real estate professional, how do you want to say amount or percentage? How big of a savings was that?
Yeah, I'm willing to talk about it openly. It just so happened to coincide with our very best year ever at the law firm. So it was really a culmination of things that had been taking place for building up for many years. And I think we did 16 cost segregation studies that first year, and 14 of them were for properties that were purchased in 2019 and 2020. And 2 of them were for properties that were purchased in 2021, which was the first year that we were able to claim that my wife was able to act as property manager and qualify as a qualified real estate professional. But I remember the law firm settled a case in 2021 for $5 million. It was a very big wrongful death commercial trucking accident case. And so we had the highest income year that we'd ever had, and we had the 16 cost segregation studies and the bonus depreciation. So I believe that it saved me about $250,000 in tax.
Wow. $250,000 of hidden money. That would have been available there for you anyways. And all you had to do was pick that fruit. That is awesome.
Yeah. That is amazing testimony. Amazing testimony.
I just want to point out for listeners, we're going to go into on our bonus content, which is available at hiddenmoney.com/bonus. And we'll talk more about real estate professional designation, how people can qualify, how another spouse can qualify. You do have to qualify. It's a legitimate rule that you have to follow, but it's in y'all's case and in so many other taxpayers' cases, it's very possible. And in y'all's case, even probable to qualify. Sorry to interrupt, Kevin.
No, that's exactly where I was going to go with it, is just because the strategy that we utilized with Gib is available to a lot of other individuals out there. And we typically see it with one high income earning spouse and the other spouse is typically at home. And so we could leverage the tax code to utilize that as long as it fits in with their financial plan. And it also, the spouse has to be on board. There's going to be work involved, which we'll get into the bonus content. So Gib was in a unique situation where his wife was like, yeah, this is something I can do. So we'll get into that, but I just did want to clarify that even though if you buy long-term real estate, it doesn't automatically mean we get to offset your active income. There's going to be those hurdles and there's going to be some traps in there. And that's why you want a qualified tax professional to guide you through that, to make sure that these deductions are not only available for you, and if they are, we need to take them safely. And we don't want to just start throwing around depreciation numbers and putting at risk on an audit and occurring penalties and interest potentially. So you want to make sure your ducks are in a row.
Well, I was just going to say, that was the conversation that my wife and I had to have to talk about. My law firm is growing. We're doing very well. We've expanded to where now we've got 3 office locations and I've got all these other attorneys and I've got more on my plate than I can handle. Are you open to doing that? And it is a lot of work. Being the property manager of those 14 long-term rental properties that we have involves her dealing with all the tenant issues, signing the leases, showing the apartment. Every time we have a turnover, she's got to go out there and do multiple showings. And we've got 3 children at home, and I've got an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And so she was already busy, but they're in school. And during the time that they're in school, she runs around and sends the maintenance people out to the apartment complex. But really, if you think about it, where else is she going to earn $250,000?
Yeah.
The tax savings made it something that, even though it is a lot of work, it was something that was well worth doing.
Oh my goodness. That's a good way to put it. Her salary was $250,000 that year. And a lot of stay-at-home moms are the most underpaid. That is such a hard line of work. What I love about this is you're able to also just take those tax savings and now you can have $250,000 to reinvest. And now you can start to snowball an investment portfolio and utilizing more tax positive investments. So what was after that big year of utilizing the long-term real estate, what'd you do with your tax savings? I'm sure you didn't put it under a mattress. Where'd you go with it?
Yeah. So Kevin, I immediately redeployed that money that I had saved that I didn't have to pay in tax. And what I did was I bought a 5,500 square foot short-term rental property in Sevierville, Tennessee. I bought the property for $1.85 million, and I made a down payment of $370,000, which was a 80% loan to cost deal that I had arranged with the lender. I had very favorable terms. I think the interest rate is 2.5%.
Wow.
Which was prevailing rate at the time. And so I was able to redeploy that money in the very next year. And once again, take bonus depreciation, do a cost segregation study and take bonus depreciation.
So that property, it wasn't a long-term rental though. You pivoted and opened a different type portfolio, right?
That's right. So this is a vacation rental, and it's a short-term rental vacation property. It's on Airbnb and Vrbo, and I've got a full-time property manager. But when we first started out, we closed on the property in December of 2021, and we had to source all the furniture. It was a brand new property, so it had no furniture, no dishes, no pots and pans, no artwork, and had to source all of that stuff. And it took a tremendous effort to do that. We actually closed on December 21st, and I believe we had our first guest stay on December the 27th. In the time leading up to the closing, we were ordering all sorts of furniture and artwork and electronics. And then from the day that we closed, we had like 6 or 7 days to prep the property for our very first guest. And that was just a very narrow margin right there leading up to Christmas time.
Yeah, I remember having conversations with you during that time. Even prior to close, you're already building it out and working on it. And that was a very stressful week for you, but man, did it pay off. You got it done. You achieved your material participation. You got it online and earning, and got great ratings pretty quickly after that, and saved a lot in taxes that year too. It was awesome. More hidden money.
Yeah, the short-term rental property, we bought hundreds of thousands of dollars of furniture and artwork. So not only did we have cost segregation study, but we also had a bunch of furnishings, hundreds of thousands of dollars, because normally you're not furnishing a 5,500 square foot house at one time, but this was new. It was new construction. There was absolutely nothing. We had purchased nothing. And so that was back during the COVID time as well. So we had a bunch of supply chain issues, and half of the stuff that we ordered was never delivered, or we had to buy stuff just to get us through, just to have the place ready for the first couple of guests. And then we had to buy additional furniture the following year when we had more time.
And just a note for our listeners, furniture is an asset that qualifies for bonus depreciation. And in that year, there was 100% bonus. So the investment, it was a great investment. It made the place a property that a lot of people want to visit. As a matter of fact, during our internal lunches here at the firm, I think your property has become the favorite staffs and teams. That's where we want to go. Can you get us a place? Can you get us to stay there with Gib? But when we look at the average daily rate on that, Kevin and I both say, no, not going to. That's an amazing place you built out there.
Thank you.
So then comes the next year. You'd figured out how to grow your portfolio, how to grow your net worth. You'd figured out how to maximize taxes while doing these great investments.
But I also was going to get into the interesting part that I found is the timing, because there was that stressful period. And as you're listening to this, you may just think, well, why did he just put all this stress on getting it before year end? Why didn't he just tell his guests, hey, we're going to do this in January? Well, that would have been the major difference between getting a deduction in that tax year, because what the IRS wants is that property to be available for rent in service. That in-service date is what triggers all the tax plan on this property. So you could see how pushing contractors and pushing all the people getting the furniture and art delivered, that is so vital, because this property needed to be in service before year end in order to utilize the deduction. Otherwise, if the clock turned on midnight on December 31st and we're creeping into January, all this work, all this cost segregation, all that would have had to wait till the next filing season, which would have been a year, which would have put the cash not back into Gibbs' pocket, the savings, until another year and 3-4 months. So just that time period, getting that in service was so vital. And so I just wanted to point that out, is because you hear these awesome stories and strategies, but behind the scenes, Gib alluded to, it's work. It is a lot of work, but the fruit is there. It is really there.
We had some periodic planning calls throughout the year where I spoke to both of you gentlemen. We talked about, okay, one of the big differences in working with your company from the prior CPAs that I've had, and I've had some of the biggest CPA firms in the world working for me. I've had 3 or 4 different CPAs over my career. And one of the biggest things was, instead of doing all the tax planning after the year is over, then I'm contacting you in January and saying, hey, Kevin, Mike, let's talk about how can I save taxes for last year retroactively. That it just can't be done that way. And I never had a proactive CPA firm that was calling me and saying, hey, Gib, we know you just hit a really big case and, you generated a 7-figure fee on that one case. And that's going to put you at a trajectory to pay a lot more tax than what we were anticipating. So let's talk about it like a quarterly or monthly basis. And let's have those periodic telephone calls where you all can tell me, because I don't know, I know that you make more money, you pay more tax, but I needed to get with you on what kind of strategies can I employ and what is the time frame that I have to do those. And with that short-term rental property, it was abundantly clear that I was going to pay a tremendous amount of tax if it didn't close. And of course, builder delayed closing 2 or 3 times. And so it literally was a nail biter that came down to the wire. It was almost like watching a sport game where, at the last minute, you don't really know what's going to happen. It worked out and we were tremendously fortunate, but it was because I had guidance throughout the year. I've never had a CPA firm that said, Gib, let's talk quarterly or even better yet, monthly. That 1-hour call that I have with you once a month or once a quarter, however frequently we can do it, pays huge dividends.
That's a great point. So we always talk about using the tax code to your advantage versus being a victim to it. The main way, or one of the main ways to do that, is to be a proactive tax planner, not a retroactive tax victim. And it's nice and refreshing to get clients. Not all clients are as awesome as you, but it's nice when we have clients that actually will work proactively with us. We still have a lot of clients that do some great things and they're incredibly smart, but they're so busy, we can't get them on the phone or to respond to an email until after the end of the year. And it's too late in most cases. So you should be doing your tax planning throughout the year, not after December 31st. Mm-hmm. In your case, we've just walked through 2 years of incredible tax benefits and great financial portfolio growth with you. Again, I believe by saving you those taxes so you could redeploy those into additional investments, you're helping grow the economy, doing much more so, in my opinion, than the government does. And if you would have paid that money in tax and not gotten it, it would have reduced the amount of economic growth that your plans and your portfolio generated. So once again, I believe it is our patriotic duty as Americans, as citizens, to do whatever we can to grow the economy. And it's the right thing. The whole reason these laws are available, the whole reason you were able to take advantage of bonus depreciation is our society and Congress and even the president got together and said, hey, these are the things our economy needs to keep the economy growing, to improve the economy's strength, and to lift up the tide for all people in the country. So you're doing a great job on helping grow our economy, Gib. This is good stuff. This is not cheating. This is not playing it loose with the tax law. This is utilizing the incentives our society got together and put into the tax law to follow the rules and to grow the economy, which happens to also grow your personal portfolio. Most people think of taxes only as an expense. In each episode of the Hidden Money Podcast, we will bust this myth and reveal ways you can use taxes to your advantage, because there's wealth inside the tax code. There's hidden money there.
Thank you for listening to Gib Irons today. We will continue the conversation with him. Don't miss part 2 of our conversation on our next episode.